But long ago, the West considered the Taliban to be its friends. This is the pre-9/11 story of America's attempt to secure Taliban support for a lucrative pipeline deal. Former French intelligence advisor Jean-Claude Brissard investigated the matter. He is considered to be one of the world's foremost experts on Al-Qaeda's financial networks.
The idea of the pipeline started a long time ago, the beginning of the 90s. The idea was to have a pipeline going across Afghanistan. And the choice was made both by the industry, but also by the government at the time, to try to discuss with the Taliban and their Pakistani allies.
The American oil company Unocal, based in Sugar Land, Texas, sent its most experienced vice president on several trips to Afghanistan to strike a deal with the Taliban leaders. Before Christmas 1997, Unocal and the US State Department also paid Taliban representatives to visit America. For the first time, Marty Miller reveals what happened. One of the meetings took place in Miller's own home. Before the Taliban officials arrived, Miller had to cover 2 naked sculptures in his garden.
The idea was to bring him over and give him a dog and pony show about, okay, here's where the pipeline starts, here's where it ends, and that kind of stuff. And it was basically to establish Unical's credibility as a real company. And you know, like after that visit, anytime I wanted to meet with a Taliban representative, it was pretty much an open door, because you know they were interested in the project. I'd probably go to Washington, D.C. once every 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And I would typically meet with the State Department. I spent a lot of time with the NSA. I spent a little time with CIA. I had, with CIA mainly, they had a local agent, I guess you call him, the base there in Houston, that he would, when I would come back from one of my trips to Central Asia, and particularly, well, anywhere in Central Asia, he'd come by and debrief me and you know, what'd you see, who'd you talk to, what'd you talk about, and that kind of stuff.
Unocal worked closely with the US State Department and the 2 largest American intelligence agencies, the CIA and the NSA. One of the few intelligence agents to warn Washington, D.C. about the Taliban and its hatred of the West was Afghan expert Julie Sears. A former analyst with the Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, Sears wrote a highly critical report about Unocal's contact with the Taliban. But the report undermined the Clinton administration's policy towards Afghanistan and was suppressed by senior State Department officials.
Even at that time, I think the State Department would have been happier having the Taliban control the whole country and having Massoud go away.
The legendary warlord Ahmad Shah Massoud, one of the Taliban's foremost enemies, became one of Sears' most important informants.
He believed that Unocal had provided the Taliban the money essentially to help in the Taliban taking over Kabul in 1996. And I think there was very much a sense, not just from Massoud, but other observers of Afghanistan, that Unocal was supporting the Taliban.
The biggest obstacle to the pipeline project was this man, Osama bin Laden. In a secret dossier, Al-Qaeda's former military chief, Mohammed Atef, argued that America's craving for gas was so consuming that it would never attack Afghanistan while the pipeline deal was still being negotiated. Atef was only partially right. The US continued negotiations with the Taliban, but demanded the extradition of bin Laden.
At a point during these talks, there's a US representative that would make this ultimatum that you'll have either the carpet of gold or the carpet of bomb.
The Taliban would not extradite bin Laden, and soon after, on the 10th of September 2001, President George W. Bush sanctioned an attack on Afghanistan. But Al-Qaeda struck first.
The most fascinating part of the story is soon after 9/11, we hear that governments from the region have got together and basically decided to revive the project. That means that even without knowing the fate of Afghanistan in terms of stability, all these countries had come to the same conclusion they had reached before 9/11, that this pipeline was crucial for them, for the interests.